I suppose that some people find history boring, and that for them it is just a retelling of some boring stories that have already happened. But today in this video, we will explain, or at least try to explain, each period of the past in history as interestingly as possible. We will try to enjoy ourselves together through it, so let's get started. Prehistory. Prehistory is, in addition to history, one of the divisions of the past, and prehistory is part of the geological era, which has a special division that we will talk about in the next video. Prehistory is the last period in the geological era, and it began about 3 million years ago, when the first man appeared on planet Earth, or how, according to scientists, the human-like ape evolved into Australopithecus. The period of prehistory is divided into the Stone Age and the Metal Age. The Stone Age is the first age. You all probably already know that the Stone Age was marked by weapons and tools made of stone. We will briefly go over that period. It was divided into the Old, Paleolithic, Middle, Mesolithic, and Young, Neolithic. We can talk about this in more detail, but we will leave that for another video, which will be related to the entire human evolution. The main thing you need to know is that this period began about 2.6 million years ago, BC, and ended with the beginning of the Metal Age, or 10,000 BC marks the end of the Stone Age. The difference between the Stone Ages is the period in which weapons and tools were used and what they looked like. This is what weapons looked like in the Paleolithic, while in the Neolithic they looked like this. The Metal Age, on the other hand, brought a completely new style of weapons. It was divided into the Copper, Iron, and Bronze Ages. Copper is the first, since copper is the first metal ever discovered. More about that in the next video, so leave a like to see it. At that time, people had already discovered high temperatures and boiling points, so weapons already looked completely different. A similar situation occurred in the Iron Age, with the metal iron being used. The Bronze Age brought something completely new to humanity, and that was alloys. And at that time, people had already begun to civilize and establish the first states. Therefore, prehistory came to the end of its era.
History. A very long period that marked numerous events, so many that we could make a 1,000-hour video. But since we don't have that much time, we will watch in this video and go through the most important events through history. I will tell you everything that happened from the end of prehistory to the beginning of the new century. My colleagues will take over from there. We will start from the very beginning of history, which is the origin of writing, 3,500 years, somewhere in the area of Mesopotamia. The first writing was created in the form of pictures, and then it grew into cuneiform and finally hieroglyphs in the pyramids. Egypt fought with Persia and neighboring empires, but the main thing they are remembered for is the pyramids built 4,500 years ago. Ancient Greece had significant battles, especially among its polices, the main ones being Sparta and Athens, until they were defeated, and then Alexander the Great united all of Greece and defeated Persia, a very powerful empire at that time. On the other hand, Old Rome rose from the Apennine Peninsula as a kingdom with its twins Romulus and Remus. A total of 7 kings ruled Rome until the Republic came. Rome became significantly stronger under the Republic. The most important of them was Gaius Julius Caesar. With his murder, Octavian Augustus came to power, and at the same time the first emperor of Rome. Rome as an empire grew so strong that it spread over more than half of Europe, part of Africa, and part of Asia. During this time, barbarians attacked Rome and overthrew the Western Roman Empire in 476, and with that event, the Middle Ages began. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, many tribes and peoples did not have their own land, so they moved throughout Europe and began a great migration of peoples. The main ones among them were the Avars, Goths, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Vikings, Slavs, Normans, and others. Many of them had already founded their own states on the territory of the Western Roman Empire, such as the French, English, and Holy Roman Empires, or today's German Empire, while the Eastern Roman Empire became Byzantium, with its capital Constantinople, which was the main target of all the peoples in Europe. Many wars took place throughout Europe, but among the most significant were the Crusades, of which there were 8. The fourth is the most significant, which took place in 1204, when Constantinople was first broken through and plundered. At the end of the 14th century, the Turks came from Asia and set out to conquer Byzantium and the Balkans, while in the center of Europe, the main role was played by the new Habsburg monarchy. The Holy Roman Empire, England, France, and now Spain and Portugal were already starting to free themselves from the Arabs. Russia, meanwhile, became huge and occupied most of Asia. At the end of the 14th century, and especially in the middle of the 15th century, the Turks became so strong that they became the dominant power in the world. And they proved this by conquering Byzantium and conquering Constantinople in 1453. Since they held all the roads to Asia, the European peoples had to find another way to that continent, when by chance, a sailor discovered a new continent, namely America, in 1492. And then the Middle Ages officially ended and the new century began.
Oh, people, here I am again. Where did we stop? Yes, in the new century. So, since Turkey occupied almost all possible passages and charged huge taxes to Europeans who wanted to acquire spices from Asia, specifically India, the navigator Christopher Columbus discovered America quite by accident. But he was not even aware of it. It was only later that Amerigo Vespucci established that this was a completely new continent at the beginning of the 16th century. During that time, Turkey reached its peak and was stronger than ever, and the same was true for Russia. However, European countries that were coastal to the Atlantic Ocean, such as England, Spain, France, and Portugal, set off into a completely new world, that is, to colonize America. Portugal and Spain colonized South America, while North America and the rest of Africa were occupied for the most part by Great Britain and France. As the end of the 18th century approached, a wave of revolutions swept across Europe, starting with the Netherlands, England, and most significantly, France. Feudalism had almost completely disappeared from Europe, but the revolution also began in the United States when it gained independence, thanks to the revolutionary George Washington, after whom the capital of the United States is still named. After the end of the French Revolution, France became an empire with Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, who almost single-handedly conquered half of Europe and occupied Russia. But he lost the battle because the French could not survive the extreme temperatures of the Russian steppes like Russian soldiers. After that, in the middle of the 19th century, revolutions took place in almost all countries of Europe. And soon, the Crimean War, the precursor to the First World War, came. Almost all of Europe was at war, but it was not as terrible as something that would follow later. In order to prevent major conflicts, two large groups of countries, or rather alliances, were formed. The Entente, which included Russia, France, and Great Britain, and the Central Powers, Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Italy. Tensions between them grew until Austria-Hungary declared war on the little kingdom of Serbia, where the other members of the Entente came to the rescue, to which the Central Powers responded in 1914, when the First World War began. This event is so significant for humanity that it marks the end of a new century and the beginning of the modern era. The First World War lasted until 1918. At that time, Germany was blamed for the war and its economy was destroyed. Furious about this, the German painter founded a new ideology that aimed to take revenge on the European peoples. Tensions grew until 1939, when Germany invaded Poland and began World War II, the bloodiest war in human history. The whole of Europe and then the world got involved, and that war lasted until 1945, when Italy, Germany, and Japan were defeated. Then new powers appeared in the world, the Soviet Union and the USA. That's when the Cold War began. These two powers never fought each other, but they fought by helping other countries during the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and similar wars. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and the Cold War officially ended. Soon, the UN, NATO, BRICS, and similar communities were founded, which are and still are trying to maintain peace in the world and avoid major conflicts. Okay, people, that's all for this video. Be sure to leave a like on the channel and follow the profile, because there will be more videos related to this topic, and most of the things mentioned in the video will be mentioned and covered in detail, like the First World War, for which you already have a video on the channel, and a sequel to that video is coming out soon. You have a playlist of videos and suggested recordings. Thank you to everyone who watched the video and see you soon.